Everybody back. All right. Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad you got to meet a friend or two in class. As I had mentioned in the practicum portion, then you will be forming groups. So it's always good to get to know some of your classmates because you might wind up being on a team together. Okay, let's go ahead and dive right in. For those of you wondering why your class is the J class, we always call React classes after different types of birds, and we usually go in alphabetical order, so we happen to be on the J's for our spring term. That's why all of our advanced classes are J and jellyfish and Jamaican boa and jaguar and all of those fun J names. Okay. I like to share some interesting facts so that way you feel like there's some kind of reference point for why you're called the Jay class. Jays are among some of the most intelligent birds. They're from the same classification of birds as crows, which are extremely intelligent birds. They have complex social systems and strong family bonds. They're 12 times their body weight and can fly just 20 days after they hatch. So, my corny takeaway that I like to share with all the classes to put a smile on your face is create bonds and learn and grow. If you're curious about Blue Jays, there's more information that you can find there on birdfi.com. Okay, skipping right along, I also like to share some information about demographics because sometimes you all don't see each other very much when you don't have cameras on or things like that, and we're not meeting in person regularly. So, some class facts as of this morning, we had 49 students enrolled in the class, 35 of our 49, so 71%. Are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. So we love having that diversity. Welcome, everybody. 19 states are represented. You all are spread out pretty well across the United States with 5 time zones represented as well. There's lots of spoken languages in this class as well, too. 13 spoken languages are available, so you're likely to find somebody that speaks another native tongue besides English with you. And the age range for all of you is about 20s to 50s, roughly. The majority of you are from low income backgrounds too, so you know what it is to work hard and to struggle and to get through things. So definitely support each other and appreciate each other's differences and be inclusive of one another, just to lean back on those values we talked about at the beginning. Okay, now it's time to meet your tools. For those of you returning to us, you'll already be familiar with classes.codethedream.org. You'll need to sign in with your GitHub account. Everybody should be able to see the J class in that already. I am going to go ahead and drop it in the chat for you too, so that way if you want to pull it up on a window next to you while we are going through our orientation, you are welcome to do that. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat. There we go. If you do have any login issues whatsoever, then just message Roy or myself, and we can take a look and see if maybe there's something weird with your GitHub handle that we have on file causing any kind of issues. When you first log in, you'll see a dashboard similar to that. I'm going to go ahead and give you a live tour of what the dashboard looks like and how to find your way around the Learns app now, so that way you can get a little bit more comfortable with it. When you first sign in, then you have a dashboard. If you have taken multiple classes or are currently enrolled in multiple classes with us, then the selector here will let you choose which class you want to take a look at the dashboard for. It lets you know chronologically where we're at in the class. So we are a 15-week course. When we're at 7.5 weeks through, then you'll see a 50% mark here because we'll be halfway through. You have any upcoming assignments as well as updates letting you know if you have submitted it yet, if it's pending review, or if it's been approved. There is a delay in this updating up to an hour after you submit. It might take for it before it'll update showing that you've submitted. So just be aware that if you submit and it still says not yet submitted, don't freak out. It's okay. It just takes it an hour for the app to update. And I'll show you your upcoming schedule. And then I need to update your links here, but it'll have links to your Zoom's channel for being able to connect for group sessions, links to be able to jump to Slack announcements and Slack discussion, the class email, and then a link to your mentor session schedule as well too. So all of that information will be there on your dashboard if you need it. It also has a dark mode if anybody needs or wants dark mode to be a little bit easier on the eyes. All right, when you click to be able to go into the class, or if you go to courses and select the class from your list of courses that you're enrolled in, then it'll take you to your course calendar. So as you can see, this Wednesday, March 5th is when you'll start with week 0 information on the Learning to Learn topic. Learning to Learn is not a technical week whatsoever. It's all just letting you know sort of how the class is structured and giving you information about online learning support systems. So time management tools and ways to kind of like reinforce your learning and all of that good stuff. There is a task or two for you to do on that learning to learn assignment. You'll want to create a study plan for yourself and submit it to us. It's a spreadsheet that shows you like a week-long calendar for you to be able to carve out like this is when I'm working, this is when I'm taking care of family or myself, this is when I'm taking care of classwork. So you'll make a copy of that, fill it out, and submit that into us. And then you'll also get access to the student handbook and a student handbook quiz. And that's just for us to make sure that you've taken a look at the student handbook and you understand some of the basic policies within our program. You can take the handbook quiz multiple times, and the score of it doesn't affect anything with your class whatsoever. Beyond that, we have different topics that are broken down as far as what you'll be learning within those sections of the calendar. Your columns here show your start date. So week one officially begins with coding assignment work on React Basics on March 12th, and it'll be due on March 18th. All of your assignments will be due Tuesday, 11:59 p.m. your time. If you're going to be late turning in your assignment, just be sure to make Roy aware. Each of these little blue links takes you to that particular assignment. So let's take a look at a couple of those. This one is going to be, let me get back up to the top. This one's going to be your week 0, the learning to learn topic. You can also use the drop down to be able to get back to your calendar or to take a look at different sections and jump to different weeks if you need to. But on the Learning to Learn week, then we've got general class information. So that way you'll be aware of kind of what's coming up, how is it structured, what will you be learning, what each lesson structure looks like as far as your objectives, the discussion topics, and then any assignment instructions and further reading. All of that information will be there. In the part 1 section covers the information about the student handbook, learning strategies, all of those kinds of good things. And then part 2 section talks a little bit more about general technology industry trends as far as like agile development, and understanding the 80/20 principles, how to scope a project, all of those sort of good, helpful information that you'll need to know and that you'll be utilizing throughout and later on in class. So then the only assignment portion, no coding assignment for week 0, as you see, but you will have to take care of that student handbook quiz and the study plan. So you'll take the student handbook quiz here, study plan information here, and you'll just take care of those, submit those in, and you'll be good to go. Once you start in the actual lesson weeks, then you'll see your learning objectives at the top. You'll have your lesson materials with all of that discussion topics and everything broken out as you find out when you read that week 0 information. So you'll go through all the content. Be sure to kind of chunk it because there are some weeks that there's a lot of information you're going over. So feel free to bookmark things or say, I'm going to read down to this section today. I'm going to read this portion tomorrow. Definitely break it out, whatever is good for your schedule to make sure that you're meeting deadlines. And then the assignment information also has good breakdowns as far as, okay, take care of part 1 with getting your repository set up. Take care of part 2, installing things. So feel free to work through it in bits and pieces, but just make sure that you're keeping track of where you leave off so you know where to pick up if you're starting and stopping your stuff throughout the week. When you get down here to the bottom, you'll see a mindset assignment portion. Mindset assignments aren't technical in nature at all, but they are helpful things to be able to utilize throughout your lifespan as a programmer or as a developer. So it's topics about like dealing with imposter syndrome, how to ask for help, debugging techniques, accessibility things to keep in mind so that way you're building product that everybody can use. All of those good things will be available there. If you're returning to us from another class, all of this content's going to look extremely familiar. So just answer your journal questions from your new perspective of being in your React class. Maybe there are some new debugging techniques that you learn as a React developer versus Node or Intro. So definitely answer those from wherever you are in your current thought process. When you're done doing your lessons, your coding assignments, your mindset assignments, then you'll click Submit Assignment to be taken to the assignment submission form. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. First, I want to take a quick pause, see if there are any questions about the Learns app or if you all need any other visuals on any of the features in the Learns app. All right, cool. Well, in case any questions are rattling around in your brains and they're just making their way to fingers to type up or to unmute and ask. So your lesson materials in general are going to come from several different resources. There may be some video content in there. You'll likely have to take a look at documentation because every developer has to dig through documentation at some point. And there might be some little like tutorial type guides that are happening in both your coding assignment or in your lesson materials. So definitely read everything closely. Make sure that you're keeping track of going through those lessons and that you're covering everything that you need to. That Learns app is really going to be your starting point and kind of your source of truth that you'll return to week after week to make sure that you're getting all of the information on the topic you're learning that week and that you're being able to apply all of that through your coding assignment. Anything else that I should add about curriculum, Roy? Anything I'm forgetting that you'd like to chime in with?
About the only thing that I would add for the curriculum is that over the course of the next several days, there will be a few modifications here and there as we polish up the end of the curriculum. As you know, it's a brand new React course, so there's always going to be a little bit of kinks and bugs to work out. So just want to let you know, you will see a couple of things here and there change, but everything should be pretty stable by Monday.
Awesome. Thanks, Roy.
Mhm.
That's always good to know in general. React class, especially over the past couple of years that we've offered it, has always had the best timing of making some kind of update or deprecation right before we have a class go live. So in case any of that excitement happens during your class, then we'll be communicating any changes with you. But your source of truth will always be your Learns app, and we'll keep that up to date for you. All right. In addition to resources and learning tools, I always like to just touch on information about artificial intelligence. It's out there, everybody uses it. It's important for us to know what it is and good ways to use it, because just like you can use a tool to make something productive or you can use a tool to demolish something, AI is a tool. So the good ways that we'd like to see you using it, if you are comfortable using it and elect to use any AI tools during class, is in ways that will be beneficial to your learning. So have it make practice questions, sort of a flashcard feel to get you comfortable and familiar and solid on concepts and understanding how things work within the React framework. A lot of you have a lot going on. You're working, sometimes working multiple jobs, balancing self-care, balancing family care. All kinds of things are going on. So getting time management tips is a great way too. You can feed it your schedule of, I have to work this many hours this week and I have to take care of people this many hours this week. Where am I going to fit classwork in? It's also helpful for finding any additional resources. So if the lesson material that we have is something that you're grappling with and you're having a hard time and you just need something explained a different way, and maybe there's not a mentor available or a classmate available to kind of run through that with, then that's where you can use AI as sort of like a little study buddy and say, I'm not understanding this particular concept. Explain it to me in a different way. Related to that, you can also use it for language translations. As I had mentioned, a lot of you have a lot of different languages that you speak. So if you're more comfortable in a different language other than English, then feel free to copy and paste our English lesson plans into AI and ask it to translate it into whatever language or dialect is more comfortable for you. Okay, those are the good ways to use AI. I have to touch on the bad ways too. Having it do your work for you, you will not learn anything by having it do your work for you. Being a programmer takes a lot of muscle memory, takes a lot of getting comfortable with how are these files structured? How do these files work with one another? And if you don't have that broad understanding, even if you do wind up working someplace where they're having AI build a lot of content, you still need to understand why it built it that way and be able to fix it when inevitably it breaks because robots are made by people and people aren't perfect and robots aren't perfect either. Tech can fail at times. And that's where it's helpful to understand what's going wrong, know what's going wrong, and be able to figure out how to fix it. So, the other key point of a bad way to use artificial intelligence is asking it questions just to be able to get an answer and not let yourself critically think or problem solve or strategize about something. Being a developer also requires all of those skills, and those are skills that need to be honed and used and strengthened. And just like if you don't ride a bike for a while and you get back on, you're like, oh, how do I do this? This is hard to steer and I feel so clumsy. using those critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, keep them sharp by using them. Don't let the AI tools that are out there be a crutch that lets you hobble along and not be able to stand on your own 2 feet. So I always like to just put that out there so that everybody's aware. Your coding assignments will all be GitHub based, so you'll create your repositories or you will fork and clone repositories and build off of them, and then you'll submit those repository links for pull requests to us so that way your reviewers can take a look. If you are returning to us from a previous React class, we used to use a online textbook for previous React classes, which is as entertaining as it sounds to have to read through chapters. You will not be needing the old textbook at all. And also, we've changed up sort of what you're doing as far as your project that you are building as practice project, as well as the final project that you'll build in the end to be able to showcase. So instead of doing a blogger hacker story app, which is what the old textbook did, you'll be building the to-do list app, which was the previous class's final project. And that will be your practice work, is building out that to-do list app throughout the lessons. But now you have an open-ended final project that you get to come up with a concept of, and you get to build it and just make sure that it meets particular specifications. So you get to be creative. Yay! All right. Moving right along, coding assignment that just shows you a screenshot of like a GitHub repository. Most of you should be pretty familiar with GitHub being an advanced level class, or at least had some exposure to it. So if you do feel like you're struggling with Git workflow, if you feel like you're struggling with understanding what GitHub is and how it's working and how it's behaving, definitely connect with mentors early on and have them help you through any sticky spots so that way it feels more comfortable for you. Anything to add about coding assignments or about GitHub, Roy, before I move on?
Yeah, version control is your friend. Please, 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 get comfortable with it really fast. I mean, as much as reasonably possible, but uh, version control will save your butt. I don't know how many students I've had contact me say, "Hey, I got to start all the way over again," and all of that just boils down to the fact that they're not using their version control. So be comfortable with it. And like Mariella said, reach out to a mentor if you need an assistance. I mean, it's a learning environment. We're not expecting everybody to learn or like know everything. So you're not impressing anybody by like hiding like something that you don't know. So please reach out.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Roy. Okay, and I talked a little bit about those mindset assignments. They'll either be like articles or videos to read or watch, and then journal type questions about, what are some of your problem solving strategies? Did you learn any new strategies from the information we shared? That kind of thing. Okay, so now let's dig into those submitting assignments. When you complete your work, you will have a link to a pull request that you'll submit to us. So that way your assignment reviewer can take a look at the code that you built and share feedback on the code that you built. So when you submit your form, it's going to trigger a notification to your reviewer, and your reviewer will say, hey, there's a new assignment for me to review. That way they can take a look. They'll typically leave comments on your pull request on your GitHub repository. So that way you can see right alongside with your code, what are they recommending I change? Is everything looking good? All of that good stuff. When they complete their review, they also fill out a form. And when they turn in that form, it emails you and lets you know your assignment's been approved or your assignment needs revisions. If your assignment needs revisions, make the revisions that you need to based on the information in that email and or the information on your pull request comments from your reviewer, and then resubmit it the same way you submit your assignment. So the submit assignment green button at the bottom of your lesson page. And then I also just have the reminder in there that the dashboard will show your recent submissions and their statuses, but there might be up to an hour delay between when you submit and when that widget on your dashboard updates. Okay, so taking a look at the assignment submission form. So when we're on this lesson one page and we click the submit assignment button, it'll open this in a new window, and it defaults the lesson that you'll be turning in. So that way you don't have to be like, oh wait, which lesson is it on? And dig through a list of a whole bunch of lessons. It just defaults it for you. You'll be sure to add your name to the list, saying I'm the person turning in this particular assignment. You'll paste your link to your work here. If you have any questions that you want your reviewer to address, include them here. When you submit this and it triggers that notification to your reviewer, those questions will be included so they know about anything particular that you're going to be asking questions about. Mindset response information goes in here. And all the rest of the data we collect on here is just helpful for us to gauge if our curriculum is well balanced or if there's a week that's really hard next to a week that's really easy that we can even out. So feel free to share any feedback there. If there are any additional needs that you need, as far as like having trouble finding a one-on-one session with a mentor, having trouble with any kind of machine or internet access issues, then feel free to let us know on the form there and hit submit. You will get an email confirmation that we've received your submission too. Any questions about submitting assignments? Okay, nice. Let me jump back here. Okay. All right. So how are you going to talk to people? You know how to get your content and you know what your assignment is that you're supposed to work on and how to turn that assignment in. But obviously, you're not going to be an island unto yourself in this class. You are going to need to lean on classmates, lean on mentors to be able to help find your way around and get information. So for that reason, then we use Slack as our primary communication resource. And it is a program that you can download either to your desktop, you can download it on mobile devices, you can use it in the browser, whatever you're most comfortable doing. But it logs you into a Code the Dream workspace that has all of our Code the Dream people in it, as well as your mentors, your classmates, friends, past and present, in the Slack workspace. And then your class in particular has individual channels that associate just the students for the J class and the mentors for the J class together. So that way you don't have to blast all, I don't know, 2,000 plus people that are in our workspace with information. Since a lot of your communication is going to be online and remote, and you don't have the benefit of body language, facial expressions, intonations, and the sound of a person's voice, then we do like to highlight some notes about online etiquette when we're doing our orientations. Be patient with one another and assume if somebody's typed something to you that they mean it in a positive way. If you're typing something to somebody, mean it in a positive way. Ask clarifying questions. So if somebody describes something and you're not quite sure, then saying, I think you mean this, do I understand you right, is a great way to avoid miscommunications. Also, to avoid miscommunications, giving as much or more information as possible is wonderful. So don't just say, I'm stuck on the homework. Okay, well, there's like 5 tasks that we're supposed to do in the homework assignment this week. Which part of it are you stuck on? Are you having trouble accessing it in the first place, or is there something that you're just confused about? So giving details is wonderful. Please over communicate. And then, of course, being mutually respectful of one another's time and life responsibilities. We know that people get sick. We know that things come up last minute. That's totally fine. Just make sure you're communicating to each other about that. So if you schedule a one-on-one mentor session and you have to cancel last minute, be sure that you're sending them a quick Slack message or using like the appointment scheduler cancellation process to be able to let them know I'm not going to be able to do it after all. And then follow up with a message of, hey, I'm sorry I had to cancel short notice, such and such came up. All of our mentors are volunteers, so they have work and personal lives too, just like you all. The only difference is you're having to learn something new and they already know this stuff. But all the same, still be patient with one another and make sure that you're sharing about how to connect with one another in the best, most respectful ways as possible. Okay, I had mentioned you have those specific channels unique to just your class. So you have the J announcements channel, which is going to be important announcements from Roy, from Code the Dream, from Frank, our practicum coordinator. And it might be things about just what week you're on for your lessons. It might be about an upcoming opportunity, if there's any like online hackathons we want to let you know about, or online job fairs or anything like that. So any additional learning or opportunities like that will be shared in the announcements channel. So keep an eye on that. Always check out anything new that gets posted there. The discussion channel is for you and mentors to be able to discuss curriculum. So you have a question about the homework assignment. You want to talk about, hey, what are some other third-party libraries that are good to incorporate when you're building this type of a project? Whatever. Anything curriculum related that you want to talk about, that's what the J discussion channel is for. And then we have this JJJ outlet channel, and it's JJJ because it's combining the Jellyfish Ruby on Rails class students the Jaguar Node class students and the J React class students all together. That way you can kind of connect with one another, meet one another, especially for React and Node. Since you all will be working together on a practicum, it's a great place to get to know each other. So use it in a fun networking kind of way. One thing to note, any channels that you have in Slack that start with all, that goes to everybody in CTD. So all student convo isn't just the J students. It's all of the JJJJ students, as well as the intro class, as well as some past grads, as well as the practicum students. It's just everybody. So be aware if you're putting something in all, everybody's going to see what you post. All right. So let's take a look at what Slack looks like. Here's a quick little visual for when I send out the slide deck so that you know what it looks like. But let's do an actual tour of it as well too. Right now I'm using it in the browser, but like I said, you can download it and use it on your desktop, on your mobile devices. When you log in, it'll have any channels organized to the side. You won't have this many because you're not in all of the things like I have to be, but you will have J announcements, J discussion, you'll have the JJJ outlet, and then you'll have a couple of channels that are like all announcements and all student convo. The announcements channel is going to be the first place you'll always want to check whenever you're opening it up to see if there's any new information that pops up in there. And it's also going to be your best resource for class information. So there's a little tab up here at the top called J Class Info with your pretty little blue J at the top. There's information for links for students, information for mentors. So if you need to get to the classes, you forgot to bookmark classes.codethedream.org, you can get to it from here. The assignment submission form, if the app is ever down and you need to turn in your homework, then the assignment submission form is available regardless of what the app is doing here. The mentor gallery, so you can see who's available for one-on-one sessions to get help, seeing who your reviewer is, getting access to the student handbook, all of that stuff is available here. We also have information about group sessions. So a recording repository, which is empty right now, but as mentors have their sessions, if they record their sessions and upload them for us, then you'll be able to look back at any recorded sessions from your all's class in that repository there. Community Slack guidelines, the email address and Roy's handle in case you need to reach him, and other CTD staff members that you will likely be involved in or connected with at some point in time. We don't have your weekly mentor session schedule finalized yet, but things will be added to these as our time gets closer to the official start date of the 12th. And so as we find out from our mentors what day and time they want to hold their session, then they would put their information in here as well as what time. So that way you would know Roy would have a session Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Roy doesn't actually have a session Wednesdays at 7 p.m. I'm just showing an example. But any names and times will show you the day of the week and what day and time that particular session is. They might add some notes in there as far as like if there's particular things that they're going to cover topic-wise in that session, or if there's going to be a hiccup in their schedule, maybe they're on vacation one week, so they'll say, usually Wednesdays I'm on, but March 19th I won't be here. Every other Wednesday I will be here or whatever. So keep an eye out for information on there as it gets updated by mentors. They also will likely message in the announcements channel saying, hey, reminder, my session's starting in 5 minutes if anybody wants to join. Or don't forget, I've had to cancel my session this week. I'll see you all next week. Or I've moved it to Thursday or whatever. So definitely keep an eye on your announcements channel and refer to your class info tab as needed. I think that hits the highlights for Slack. To create a new message to somebody, you use the compose icon, put in their name or their names. You can message multiple people, start your message and send it. So it works pretty similar to most other messaging apps. But if you need any help or have questions about finding your way around, that's what Roy and I are here for your office hours this coming week. Any questions about Slack? All right. For those of you that are brand new to our program, I'll be sending your Slack invites out to you by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. It'll be an email that's coming from Slack directly. And so it'll be from slack.com and it'll say, you've been invited to Code the Dreams workspace. So keep an eye out for that if you're new. If you're a returning student, then I will have your channels added to your accounts by Wednesday afternoon at the absolute latest. Okay, putting right along. We've covered lesson materials, coding assignments. We've covered Slack for how to be able to get in touch with one another, how to turn in your coding assignments. So how are you going to meet for these group sessions that you've heard me talking about? All the group sessions are on a recurring Zoom meeting link. That means the link can be used for any duration at any time to be able to join on group sessions. So don't be worried about getting kicked out after 40 minutes or anything like that. Um, you may, on occasion, have one-on-one mentors use that Zoom link to meet with you if there isn't a group session already scheduled, and if that's the easiest way for you both to connect, then that's definitely a possibility. That recurring meeting link is in that class info tab that I just showed you in the J announcements channel. Make sure that your Zoom is updated before class starts. They did have a pretty big software update at the end of January. So just make sure everything is fine-tuned, up to date, and ready to run for the start of class. If you're doing a one-on-one session and there's a group session going on the Zoom link, then you might be asked to meet with your one-on-one mentor through either a Slack call or huddle, or through like a Google Meet, or they might have their own Zoom account that they've set up to be able to handle mentor sessions. So just keep an eye on the confirmation that you get when you schedule your one-on-one, and it'll let you know how you should meet with those individuals. Okay, so let's take a look at mentors a little bit here. As I had mentioned, the group sessions, you do need to attend one a week. You are encouraged to attend more if you have time, but plan to attend one a week. We know that sometimes there might not be offerings at a time when you're available, especially if you work second or third shift, for example. And that's totally fine. That's why we have those one-on-one sessions. If you can't make a group session, schedule a one-on-one session. Sessions for group sessions typically are about an hour. Sometimes they go a little bit longer or might end early if people don't have questions. And you can attend different sessions from week to week. So don't feel like, oh, I met with, Sally on Thursday, my first week. I always have to go to Sally's every Thursday. I mean, it's good to get into habits and know time specifically in advance of when you're planning on doing your learning. But it's okay to kind of shop around. So if you go to Sally's this week and you want to see Jim's next week or whatever, that's totally fine. You can attend whatever order, however you want. Just make sure you're getting to one group session every week. For one-on-one sessions, there's a gallery view in that class information tab in J announcements that I'll show you in just a moment. And those meetings could be on Slack, Google Meet, Zoom, so pay attention to that email confirmation. And the one-on-one sessions, it's just you and a mentor. And these are really great sessions to use if you can't make a group session, if you're behind and trying to catch up, or if you're working ahead. So those are really good opportunities to take advantage of those one-on-one sessions. You also can totally do it if you're on track, but there's just a week that you're like, I don't understand this, and this is really frustrating me. Definitely utilize those one-on-one sessions. Okay, so here we are in our J Announcements channel, looking at the class info tab, and here's that one-on-one mentor gallery. When you mouse over it, there's a little link, Airtable link here. Click on that, and it will open up your gallery, so that way you can see who all is associated with your class as a one-on-one mentor. It breaks it down as far as name, pronouns, what time zone they're in. They don't have to be in your time zone for you to meet with them. Just be aware that there might be a time difference between you and the person you're meeting with. For anybody that I could see their schedule, I went ahead and put in when they're usually available for. So take a look to see if they're available on days that work for you. A lot of folks are weekdays, a couple of folks are any day or weekends. So feel free to shop around. If you'd like to get more information, like for example, Ryan's got his bio here, but there's 3 dots, so I don't know what else he has to say. You can just click on the person's name and like their little card, and it'll open up the further details. So it gives you the full information there to be able to see what the bio is, or if their options there are cut off to where you don't know what else besides those days are available. Okay, they're available Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, so how do you schedule with one of these people? You'll click on the click here to schedule button. It'll open up a link to their scheduling page. Any of the dates that are circled with a little light blue bubble there are days when they have appointments available. So let's say I wanted to meet with Ioannis on Friday, the 7th. It will show you, it should default to your time zone, and it'll show you what times your time that person is available. So let's say we want to meet 5 o'clock on Friday the 7th with Ioannis. Select the time and click next. You'll plug in your name, your email, and if you wanted to put specifics about like, I'm really stumped on hooks this week or whatever, you can put information in, hit schedule event, and it'll email your mentor and it'll email you a confirmation. Usually there's also things in that email confirmation for you to easily be able to add it to like an iCal or your Google Calendar or anything of that variety too. Okay. Questions about scheduling or about mentor sessions? All right. So some general rules of thumb for mentor sessions, especially in these early weeks when everybody's kind of forming new habits and getting used to new timelines and routines. Allow up to 15 minutes for a mentor to show during that 5 to 10 minute window when you're waiting for them and they aren't there yet. If that is the case, then feel free to ping them in the Slack announcements channel with @ and their name. And just say, hey, we're anxiously awaiting your arrival for your session. Everybody's human. Sometimes you forget you scheduled something, especially when it's a new routine. So just let them know if you're waiting for them. Be respectful of each other's time. If you're not going to be making it or if you're going to be late, let them know. If a mentor no-shows, we need to be aware of it. So let Roy know or use your assignment submission form to make us aware of any no-shows. I know some students in the past have felt nervous about doing that. Please don't feel nervous. Volunteers, sometimes they volunteer and think they'll have the time and then they don't, but they forget to tell us, oh, I'm sorry, I don't actually have the time after all. So it's not a matter of, anybody being tattled on. It's letting us know, are our resources doing what they're supposed to be doing? If not, do we need to train them better? Or do we need to find a replacement for them if they just don't have the availability anymore? So totally fine to let us know. Please let us know if you encounter any no-shows. And of course, be prepared for your meetings, whether it's a group session or a one-on-one, making notes when you're going through your lesson materials, jotting down things that confuse you, or having sections of code that you are struggling with to be able to be like, this is how I have it. Something's not working. Here's how it's not working. All of those kinds of preparations are helpful and will make the most of the time that you have with your mentors. That's just a screenshot so you can see what those items look like. Anything mentor related that I haven't covered or that you want to touch on, Roy? Good.
No, really can't think of anything.
Okay, nice. All right, we're nearing the end. Thank you all for hanging in there with me. I'm trying to keep us as close to an hour as possible. Frequently asked questions that come up. When are assignments due? Tuesdays, 11:59 p.m. your time. Please let Roy know if you're going to be late on submitting something. You have to have week one turned in by March 25th or you'll be dropped from the class. So your week one starts on the 12th and that assignment is due on the 18th. So plan to have your week one turned in by the 18th. But we know when you're first doing environment setup or if there's craziness going on, sometimes your best laid plans wind up having a wrench thrown in the works anyway. So that's why we give you that extra week to be able to get that lesson one turned in by the 25th. If we don't see lesson one at all by March 25th, we're going to assume that you can't do class right now, you don't want to do class right now, and we'll drop you from the class at that point. You'll either need to defer or reapply. When are classes? That session schedule on your class information tab will let you know when all of those group sessions are, and it has the link for those one-on-one sessions if you need any. Can you work ahead? Yes, but be aware that mentors and reviewers might not be able to keep pace with you. Their expectation is they'll have, X number of students. Those students will be turning in one assignment each week, every week of class. So if that varies from the expectation, then it might throw them for a little bit of a loop. So if you are going to work ahead, just talk to your reviewers first, or if you're doing multiple lessons in a week to catch up, let your reviewers know so that way they can either say, yeah, I can totally do that, or that's going to be hard for me. Let's see if Roy and Mary Alice can assign you a new reviewer that can keep on pace with you and get turnaround time on your assignments quicker. What happens if you stop coming to class or if you need to stop coming to class? If we don't see any assignments turned in, if we don't see you attending a session for 2 weeks, so one of those two things at minimum needs to happen. And if we don't see or hear from you for 2 weeks, we're going to assume that something has happened. You can't be a part of class anymore and you'll be dropped from the class. If something is changing, feel free to make Roy or myself aware of that so we can talk to you about options of maybe pushing back and taking the class next term instead, or whatever might need to be worked out for you to be able to meet your professional goals while still meeting deadlines. So if you do fall behind, communicate with Roy, make a plan to catch up. If you need help with making a plan to catch up, that's where Lillian Wong, our learning engineer and student success coach, will be helpful for you. She's very approachable and nice, and you can always reach out to her if you need help. She's not technical in nature. So if it's just like time management or getting access to resources kind of a thing, then she is a great resource. But if you need help with the actual nitty-gritty of the coding, then you're better off turning to your mentors first. What happens at the end of class? You'll turn in your final project on time. Let us know what you'd like to do next in the program. If you want to go forward with the practicum, if you want to take a different class, a lot of students who take React like to follow it up with Node right after. So feel free to do that if you're interested in doing that, and then take practicum at the end of React and Node if you'd like. Can I get a job after this class? So it's unlikely, given the current hiring climate in the tech industry, to be able to get a job immediately at the end of the individual coding portion of class, that June end date, unless you have additional computer science background experience or you're taking React to build on skills you already have or kind of broaden what you can do within tech industry. So that's why we recommend taking practicum before or while applying for jobs. When you complete at least one advanced class and practicum, it puts you in a better position to be able to look for entry-level work, because then you can say, yes, I've worked on a team project. I'm comfortable with these tools. I understand what agile methodologies are, what tech workflow is like. So you'll want to start considering looking for work after practicum. How do I know what to do after class? We will meet with you around week 10 of class. Frank Stepanski, the practicum coordinator, will be on the call and give you information about what practicum's like, what all you learn in that, the apprenticeship and how to apply for it, all of that good stuff. Okay, that's all of my frequently asked questions that I get. Are there questions out there that I have not answered? All right. I know there were a couple questions that came up in the chat. Thank you, Roy, for answering those. So feel free to review your chat in case there is a question that hadn't come to your mind that somebody asked, and then you can see what the answer is along there too. That concludes sort of all of our information part. I'm sorry it was drinking from a fire hose, getting all of this information thrown at you in an hour. That's why we do recap. You'll get the slide deck, you'll get the recording, you'll get this checklist emailed to you as well too, so you know next steps things. Register for class if you haven't yet. The deadline was February 23rd. We will extend it to March 7th for any stragglers. Preview and bookmark your class website, GitHub, Slack, anything helpful along those lines. When Wednesday comes along, you'll want to go ahead and start that week 0, the Learning to Learn lesson, where you're looking at the student handbook, taking the student handbook quiz, building your study plan and turning that in. We will have optional times for you to be able to meet with Roy or myself if there's something that you have run into that's a problem and you need help or feel lost. We are here for questions. You can definitely email us if you're not on Slack. Once you are on Slack, you can Slack message either of us to be able to get in touch and say, hey, I'm getting access denied on this, or where do I find whatever, or so on and so forth. Make sure that you go through your checklist here on the left before the first day of class on March 12th. New students accept those invites to Slack, which will be coming by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. Returning students, you'll see those classes by Wednesday afternoon at the latest. And then just check that J announcement Slack channel once you're in Slack, especially the Monday before class and on the first day of class. All right, I'm going to leave you with a contact info slide. Feel free to jot down any names or emails on there that you need or want to. For students that might not be registered yet and need to, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to be able to register as soon as I pull that up in the chat, so you can take care of that if you need to. Open form. And we want this to be for the J class. Okay. If anybody goes to this link and you can't find your name, you have already registered. So if you click the link in the chat and you don't see your name, that is okay. You are already registered for class. If you do see your name, you have not registered. So please register for class. I think that's everything. I'll go quiet for a few minutes in case anybody does have questions that pop into their mind. And otherwise, you are good to go. Roy, there wasn't anything else you wanted to do before we sign off, right?
No, okay, think anything else.
Nice. German, did you have a question? I saw you unmute for a second. Can we help you with anything?
No, no, no. Just to say thank you
Oh,
for all the
great.
information.
Sure thing. Yep. Thank you for attending. All right, everybody. Thanks. Have a great class. We're here if you need us.